Why do people tend to assume that humans are good by default? Like, there's almost this, that's disgusting. There's almost this like default setting that people seem to have that people are generally good and the bad and the evil are generally rare, you know? And as in like bad people or evil people are like the exception and not the rule. Well, I would suggest the opposite, to be honest with you. And I'm going to explain why. Because I actually just think it's unwise, not just for us in the world, but even with dealing with yourself, you know? One of the things that I love about being a child of God is specifically that because God is infallible and God is 100% good, He is the only person worthy to be worshipped and idolized because He is the only incorruptible being, essentially. And I feel that a lot of people, the reason why you probably think highly of yourself, I also don't want to think so highly of myself because I think it's a little bit delusional. I think you end up with a lack of self-awareness because you want to believe. Like, I was thinking about this, I was watching this podcast, and I was thinking, well, not even just that. Even like Wicked, right? Galinda's a good example of what I'm talking about. People that want to be seen to be good, but actually are not that good. You just want to be seen to be good. And you want to be able to tell yourself and believe that you are, but realistically, you're not. I feel like that is honestly people. That is honestly people. Like the fact that anyone has the fact that you even feel, anyone even feels in a place to judge somebody else, like for how they live their life or the choices that they've made, again, for me, is just another sign of why humans are inherently bad. Because who are you? It's like when the Bible talks about forgiveness. Like, who are you to not be forgiving? Have you never done anything wrong in your life? Have you done everything 100% right? No. So what gives you the right? And if you start weighing up what other people do and saying, oh, but this is worse or this is better, says who? And of course you would say that. In the same way, I would say, if I'm somebody who gossips, I obviously we're going to see gossiping is not as big of a deal, right? But I might think lying is worse because I feel like at least I'm telling the truth. But if I'm someone that lies, I might think that gossiping is worse because I'm a liar. And for me, I've resolved within myself that I'm okay with being a liar, but gossiping is too much. Do you see how it all goes back to selfishness at the end of the day? Like, you just want to make excuses for your own choices, your own lifestyle. Sorry, I sound out of breath, by the way. I've literally been walking up this hill in high heels. Anyway, so yeah, I feel as though it all comes back down to selfishness. Like, it's one of the things that bothers me about Christians as well. I realize that there are an overwhelming number of things that bother me about Christians. And it's just because I've grown up around, I've just been to too many church settings. Hold on, I'll come back in a second when I'm not by the noisiness. Yeah, so as I was saying, I just find it strange. Like, so for example, I was saying about Christians. You see, like what a lot of Christian people will do is they'll deem somebody as like more of a sinner than them. It's like with this whole girl sleeping with 100 guys, or like all these interviewing an ex-OnlyFans model, like, oh, this person is especially sinful. We put an especially sinful one on our hands. It's like, who are you to judge? Who are you to judge? Especially because I feel that sin and just being a good or a bad person goes a lot deeper than just, oh, it's nice and windy, than what you think or what society thinks. It's also about impact, because like, I think, if I think about the things that have hurt me the most, if I was to ask anybody, what are the most traumatizing events I've been through of all the ones I've mentioned, I guarantee you that a lot of people will think that the physical ones were the worst. And honestly, it's the psychological ones. It's like the heartbreaks. It's like the lying, the betrayals. That's why I talk about that so much. All of this other stuff that I've been through, honestly, at the end of the day, it's not that deep. Like, my body's healed. My body can heal. You know what I mean? So you villainize, like, we'll look at something, and this is what I'm saying about impact. You'll look at something and say, oh, this is so horrible that you went through X, Y, and Z, like that somebody did this to you, or somebody, you know, what's the word we use these days on YouTube? Somebody graped you, or somebody hit you, or whatever. And society will automatically go, oh my gosh, that's horrible. But we'll minimize, like, no, but this person lied and it actually impacts my life because it impacts my reputation, my opportunities, and everything. But you'll look at the lying as a smaller thing. And you know why? Because in general, it's more acceptable in society to be a liar than to be a grapist. But then it's also the same society that we pick and choose. Again, like I said, so when everybody wanted to be upset about Chris Brown hitting Rihanna. Good call, everyone. Domestic violence isn't a good thing. However, when it's Mike Tyson being known for beating up people, we didn't have an issue with that. We didn't have a problem. We're making excuses. Oh, no, we just know that that's him and that's this. That's what I'm saying. It's all selective. Like, I really have gaslit myself for the entirety of this year, right? Thinking, and my life really, thinking that when I'm looking at things logically and people aren't getting it, then I must be wrong. But I've realized I'm actually right, because people do pick and choose. Like I said, we pick and choose. Kris Jenner is seen as a good, loving mother, even though she pimps out her daughter. She's seen as a good, loving mother. But if somebody else was to be pimping out, somebody that the world didn't want to love or support, no problem. No, then we have an issue. How could a mom do something like that to her daughter? How could see what I'm saying? You're going to be upset when it's one grapist doing another thing. And then another day, like all this Drake thing, I've been thinking about how everyone's all up in this They Not Like Us song, right? And all of that. No one actually really cares even about if he did do things with an underage individual. No one really seems to actually care that much about that, as much as they just love being a part of the beef. It's kind of like I said about with Hollywood and all these people being exposed. Wow, walking across the grass in these shoes was a bold choice. But yeah, so no one really cares about the kids, even with all this P. Diddy stuff, even with this Jeffrey Epstein list. It's not that people actually care about the fact that children are being hurt. It's not that anybody's talking about where are they and how are we gonna look after them and get them to where they need to be and get them to safety and whatnot. It's just all, oh my gosh, whose favorite celeb is on the list? Whose favorite it's just another excuse for the adult population to get caught up in their own selfish desires and things that they care about and ignore the things that make them uncomfortable. And I've realized that's why I make people uncomfortable, because I'm always talking about the uncomfortable thing that nobody wants to talk about. Nobody wants to talk about the kids because people don't care about kids anymore. You're having kids thinking, oh, I'll just go shove them for 8 hours of the day in school, have to deal with them for about 2 hours. These days anyways, don't even have to look after them because they're going to be parented by TikTok. Anyway, right? Put food on the table, clothes on their back, roof over their head, like they asked to be here, right? And parenting in 2024, fantastic. If parents had to do what parents used to have to do, a lot of people would not be having kids. A lot of people would not be having kids. If you had to still homeschool them like people used to have to, a lot of people would not be having kids. But because we now live in a society where, we just shovel them off somewhere for the whole day. We just tell them they need to go out and hang out. We leave them on their phones and on the internet unsupervised, on an internet that we all know has some very, very dark, easily accessible corners, right? So they can be inspired by degenerate behavior online and then have the audacity to completely wash our hands of the situation and say, we don't know what happened with the youth of today. We don't know what happened with the younger generation. Really? How about you passing on your unhealed generational trauma that you haven't dealt with. But then you growing up in a society where you don't have to do as much as your parents had to do for you. And so you now get to call yourself a parent and be considered a good parent, again, as the default setting. Everything's the default. Unless it's the groups of people that are the victims that don't have a voice. That's why I always stand up for the children, because it's easy. Unless somebody stands up for a child, then what else is going to happen? The number of times, the number of near misses of things that have happened with kids in doing my job is insane. Where like, if I hadn't been there and it hadn't been me, the entire trajectory of that child's life would be different, would be completely different, right? And so I then think, what happens all these other times when no one's sticking up and no one's standing up? You know, well, they know we're a good society and we care about children. We care about children, but we protect the rapists. We care about children, but we make excuses for people who decided to engage in sexual intercourse and bring somebody into this planet they didn't choose to be in, they didn't ask to be in. And then whenever you decide, however much you are or not wanting to do, that's fine, according to society, because that's your right. Yeah, because we're selfish. Selfishness. Even in relationships and love. Love is so transactional in today's day and age. Like, God, I was thinking about this with God, because God just does things because he's God, and he just does. It's not that he forgives me because I did. This is why even in the Bible it's important. People don't understand salvation because people think that God operates like them. You think that you have to behave a certain way for God to love you, and you have to do this for God to love you, because that's how you are. That's who you are. You are the transactional lover. You are the conditional lover. That is not God. God loves you just because. Just because. Why does God do things? Just because he loves you. Just because he loves you. Not because you proved yourself. Not because you're well behaved. Not because you got good manners. Just because. That's what I'm saying. So that's why when I look at the state of this world, yeah, and I think to myself, this concept that we think in the default that people are good is crazy. It's actually crazy because it's actually so obviously not the case. Because if it was, then we wouldn't be in a society where we all have access to the entirety of the world. This video is going to reach the whole world, right? It can reach the whole world. Everybody on the planet has the potential to see this video, right? Obviously, they may not have the actual things that they need to do it, but the opportunity is there. The technology is, right? Having said that, how many people are lonely? How many people are still, the suicide rate is still absolutely insane. It's insane. I feel like everybody's an addict, honestly, to something. I really do. Because we're all just coping. We have such a low standard of life. I'm not even going to talk about that because I'm going to talk about that in a separate video. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know why people act or think like the default setting of us as humans. Am I sweating? A little bit. Like the default setting is that we are good. I'm going to sit for a second because I'm near the store now. I just don't know how we got to that point where we actually thought society is a good place, like, and that people are good. You know what I mean? Like, check yourself. Like, I think about what I know I'm capable of doing, and the fact that I choose not to do those things, I feel is an evidence of God, because I'd actually gain a lot more. And in life you do. It's a lot easier to, this is the thing. I always talk about the law of entropy, right? This is why I love salmon. It's all going to make sense in a minute. The law of entropy states that the universe is always moving more closer to disorder, right? So it's always going in one direction. Disorder, chaos. So envision you're in water and the water is flowing in one direction. It's a lot easier for you to just coast along than it is to go against the flow of the water. That's why this is why I love the concept of salmon, and I really want to go fishing in Alaska, because they swim against. So even why they taste differently and they're a bit more fatty and everything is all to do with the fact that they're swimming against the current. That's the harder thing to do. So being good, moving towards order, moving towards like anything that is good is actually harder than doing the bad thing. Just like how right now it would be easier for me to lose my temper with every single person I feel like deserves to feel the forces of true power that are inside of me right now. It would be a lot easier for me to do that than me to take the high road and to just smile and to just still be. It would be a lot easier for me to go around like a miserable so and so and be lashing out at everybody at every corner and be taking out my pain on others than it would be for me to choose to laugh, choose to make jokes, choose to be jovial, choose to whatever. That's what I feel like is society. Like that's why even in this country, it never really hit me until recently when I keep thinking about how people in this country always say, wow, Americans are too happy, Americans are too happy, Americans are too happy. Like, I didn't realize how offensive people find it to be happy, because it's like they are so miserable and it's so much easier for us all to be a part of misery than it is to go against it and be positive regardless. Because I am quite miserable and I am very unhappy about my existence, and I do feel like being alive is an inconvenience for me. However, as one of my friends pointed out, and it's true, I'm actually a very, very positive person most of the time. And that's actually why I don't like to be around people, because I don't feel like it's fair for me to have to, if I can within myself, through everything I've been through, still be positive, full of life, full of whatever. I don't see why I should have to be the one to have to put up with other people who aren't doing it. And the reason why other people aren't doing it is because it's hard. Exactly. And why is it hard? Because the universe is built in such a way that everything is always moving closer to disorder. It's always easier to move towards chaos. Chaos is always going to be more comfortable than order. It's like what people say about when they get in a healthy relationship and they don't know what to do with being in a healthy relationship. They know how to be in a toxic relationship, but then a healthy relationship feels boring to some people, because there was an element of our human flesh that thrives in chaos. And you know what somebody else said, which is what I agree with? Yeah, of course that's how it's going to be, because your flesh isn't going with you to the other side. Your body isn't going with you. Your body is already going to disorder itself. It's going to decay. So of course it's going to push you towards that way of thinking and that way of being, if that makes sense. So these are just the things that like I be thinking about, and why I honestly I've gotten to the point now where I'm like, you know what, I'm so good with my perspective on society and the world, because I feel like society is such a I hate to say it like this, but I feel like people are very weak. That's what I think. I think people are very weak, and I feel like having to tell yourself and think that you're better than you actually are is a weakness. That's why it takes a lot of critique. People who are great in life, people who succeed, it takes a lot of strength from them that other people don't have. When people think somebody else is lucky, that's you telling yourself, even just the concept of luck. Because if you think somebody else having something is based on the fact that they got lucky, it means that you're completely disregarding any of the hard work that went into what they were doing, right? And therefore, right, you are doing that because you have convinced yourself that it's not possible. Because if you were to believe it was possible, it would expose the fact that you're not willing to do what that person is willing to do to have what they have. That's what it would expose. Because that's what I realized even in my life, like the sacrifices I've had to make to be the winner that I am in this life, and the wins that I've had to sacrifice things that other people are not willing to sacrifice. I've had to sacrifice things other people are not willing to sacrifice. I've had to sacrifice, relationships, opportunities, and all sorts of different things. I've had to sacrifice fitting in is one of the biggest ones, because that's just another thing. Fitting in is another one. That's why if it's like this weird societal contract that I keep thinking, like, how is this being written and where is it being written exactly? Obviously in hell, but this societal contract of like, if we've all decided something in society is okay, then it's okay. And then it's good. And there's nothing bad about it. And that's why as time goes on, right? Like I said, I always use the example of WAP. When that song came out by Cardi B, it was considered like, is taboo the right word? Taboo for women to speak about our bodies, in particular our genitalia, so casually. But then as soon as that happens, slowly but surely the societal script changed, and now it's accepted, and now it's not even frowned upon anymore. So again, good or bad, where is the line? Because it just seems like as long as we all agree on something, we pick and choose. Like I said, we pick and choose. You hear that one of your favorite pastors one of your favorite spiritual leaders, has been accused of doing heinous things. Because they're your favorite person, it's, oh, we need to wait to see if there's proof. We need to wait to see if there's any exposés. We need to wait to whatever. But if it's somebody you don't like, oh, we knew this all along. We finally have a reason. That's exactly what the Pharisees were doing with Jesus Christ. The Pharisees wanted to catch out Jesus. That's why because they didn't like him already. He was coming against all of their things that they were doing. The Pharisees were going around and they were being seen as these religious leaders. They'd added all these laws to the Bible, to the scriptures that God hadn't even added, and they were being worshipped by others, and they were also making money off of it. The Sadducees, they had good, I think that they were the political ones. I don't know, you have to check out my Bible summary videos. So when this Jesus comes along who says, actually, this opportunity is for everyone, these Pharisees aren't any better than anybody else, these Sadducees aren't any better than anybody else, all of a sudden, we have a problem now, don't we? We have a problem for them. So who became the combined enemies of Jesus? If the story of Jesus Christ, even if it was just historical and there was no spiritual element, but everything else was the exact same, you have people like the Pharisees, people like the Sadducees, they're all supposed to be a part of the same faith. They can't even all agree, so they've had to split again because they all have their own selfish desires of which different thing they each want. The Herodians worshipped Herod because they felt like he was being saved by the Romans. Let's just take even why the people were not happy with Jesus in the first place. Because they wanted Jesus to come. They didn't care about anything other than what they wanted. What they wanted was somebody that was going to free them from the empire that they were under, which, by the way, they only became under because they were disobeying God in the first place. So because Jesus didn't do that, now even till to this day, they don't respect him as the Messiah. Because he didn't do what they wanted. He comes with a message of life. He comes to tell you that you're free from death. You're more concerned about this like 90-year, 100-year, however long, I don't know how long they were living those days. That little stretch out of eternity, you're more concerned with keeping your riches for that period of time or power. Again, this is the world again. You don't want to have a relationship with God. You have a selfish relationship with God. You just care about going to heaven because you want to be in heaven. And you want to store your treasures in heaven. And you want God to do what you want him to do for you. All comes back down to you and selfishness. And then that's why when a lot of people, once they get the blessings from God, right, forget about him now. Because guess what? It doesn't suit you anymore. Now you struggle to spend time with God. That's a concept I don't understand. I don't understand the concept of struggling to spend time with God. Because if you have a relationship with somebody and you care about them, you want to spend time with them. Am I wrong? So where does this notion of, oh, it's hard to spend time with God come from? I don't get it. Oh, I'm struggling to spend time with God. I'm struggling. Yes, of course, the enemy is going to try and stop us from doing it. Don't get me wrong. But there comes a point where it's like, look, listen, God is my guy. Like, we have a relationship. Like, I have to speak with him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then it's like, oh, how do I read the word of God? Oh, this is so hard. Why? Because you have a sinful nature in your body. The very fact that you struggle to talk to God, the very fact you have issues with God who created the universe, created you, created all these opportunities, created everything. All of those things point back down to what I said at the very beginning. Why do we think that by a default setting, people are good? Why do we think that? No, people are selfish. And if you have a lot of the things that you want being met, of course you're going to feel good and be good. If you've got plenty of money or enough money that you can still go on the holidays you want to go on, and you can still pay for the concerts you want to go to, you can still buy all the products you want to buy in this age of overconsumption, right? And you can still order food every other day to your house. Of course, you're going to be comfortable to give £100, $100 to charity. Of course, you're going to be ready to give because you already are good and in surplus yourself. You already live the life you want to live. But what about when you have nothing? And of course, maybe you're not doing any heinous things. You can't afford no lawyers. What would happen if you were the rich one who could afford to pay off lawyers to find every loophole under the book to get you out of trouble? What might you try to get away with? Maybe you might pay for a hitman. Maybe you might go to a witch to get some revenge. And it goes back to what I'm saying. Who are you to even be judging anybody else? Because you ain't perfect your dang self. So anyway, I'm going to leave that there because we can go around the circle 100 times. But this is literally all that I think about. Because everywhere I turn and everywhere I look, anything that is good is always godly. It's always godliness. Any goodness out there is always godliness. Anytime you see any strong anything that is of goodness in this world, it is exactly in line with the scriptures. This is why people talk about morals and values or whatever, right? It's always in line with the scripture. So it's like you're operating from a godly standpoint. You might not acknowledge it as that, but that's what you're doing, because only God is the one who could write that story, because humans, we're not like that. This is why the devil was so frustrated with God forgiving us anyways, because like, how could you forgive such dirty humans? Anyways, you guys, I'm going to go, because I'm going to go and record videos when I get back in anyways. But I just wanted to really get this off my chest, because it's just actually like, the more I just hear people acting as if like, I just am sick of people acting as if like, oh my gosh, the bad thing is the rare thing. No. The good thing is the rare thing. Because even a lot of things that people do for good, they do it with bad intentions. They do it with bad intentions. Can I tell you that I don't want anybody to do anything for me with bad intentions? That's why there's some people who I realized were weaponizing doing good deeds to make themselves look good. Like, oh, but I did this. Oh, but I did this for her. But I did that for her. It's like, yeah, you did that so that you could continue your narrative, your fake narrative, to hide what you're really doing and to hide who you really are. Don't jump in to help me. No, thank you. Because you're using that, again, you see what I'm saying, intent. Or because you want to feel good. You want to be admired. You want to be seen to be doing good. You want to feel like you're doing good. Even though it didn't come from a good place. It didn't come from compassion. It came from your own desire to see yourself as good. Like, I don't know, guys. This is what I've been thinking about anyways. Anyway, I'm going to go, because I'm already going to be recording videos when I get back anyway. But I don't know why people think by default that people are good. That's just what I have to say. And on that note, if life's a game, it's play to win. God bless you all. God loves you. I love you. And I'll see you in my next one.